Hey everyone, this is John with No Filter Recovery. 16 years ago this week, I landed in Doha, Qatar. I was a naive American country boy who didn't even own a passport until the day before I left Houston. What I thought would be a 3 week work trip turned into 27 months that would change my life forever. I've been reflecting on that time a lot as we head into the 250th birthday of the United States. How incredible blessed we are here, and how those years abroad made me extremely grateful to be an American. It's so easy to take our freedoms for granted. Before Doha, I barely traveled. A few work trips to LA, New York, and around Texas, and some personal trips around the country. That was it. I got my news from TV and the internet. I had no idea what the rest of the world was really about. The moment I stepped off the plane, everything was different. Project I was managing and also the lead structural engineer for wasn't going to wrap up in 3 weeks as I was told. This was my first hard lesson in Qatari culture, and it frustrated my American bosses back home. Executives didn't take time to understand the Qatari culture when they got the project and took it on. I quickly learned you could not bully clients or push hard to get what you wanted or needed. The guys before me tried that and they got sent home with their tails between their legs. It only took a week or two to realize pushing the U.S. ways on Qatar Petroleum was only going to make things worse. I had to adopt fast to the client, to the culture, and to the country. On my second day there, I was walking to get some lunch and the call prayer blasted from a mosque I was walking next to. I nearly pooped my pants. I'd never heard anything like that. The call to prayer became a constant in my life there. Within 5 weeks of Ramadan starting, the whole country basically shut down for over a month. We got no design approvals from Qatar Petroleum. Our executives back home didn't understand why nothing was moving. I was being pressed to do the impossible, and they were just clueless. The first morning of the month long fasting period, I walked into our Regis office and all the coffee and snacks were gone. They'd been moved to a back room because you're not allowed to eat or drink in public areas during daylight hours. It was the first time to experience Ramadan. I respected their culture, so I had eaten in our office with the doors closed and was very careful going back and forth between the coffee room. There was a day during my third Ramadan when my future wife Jonah met me after work. We grabbed some snacks at Lulu's. I was exhausted and hungry that day, so I started eating in the car on the way home. A ranking military guy forced me off the road with his Land Cruiser and screamed at me it was haram. We later realized that we were in the motorcade of the Bahraini prince who was in town to celebrate the iftar meal with the emir when the fast broke. If I hadn't been American, I probably would have been arrested. As someone struggling with addiction, I learned fast where the alcohol was. Only at the bars and discos in the five-star hotels, priced about 5 times as much as it cost here. There was one government-controlled liquor store in the whole country. To shop there, I needed approval from my employer, proof I made enough money, and had to purchase a 500 real membership card. Imagine asking your boss permission to buy alcohol. During my last year there, the liquor store was the only place pork was sold. Bacon and pork chops never tasted better. Due to the strict restrictions on who was allowed to buy alcohol and pork, I became the dealer to our friends. We would meet in the apartment parking garage, where we'd put the goods in Lulu bags and garbage cans for them to pick up. To thank the cleaning staff and our driver, I would get dozens of mini bottles and hand them out. Our driver loved me for that. The biggest culture shock, however, was the Kafala system. In my opinion, it is modern day slavery for most, if not all laborers and domestic workers that mostly came from Southeast Asia. Hell, Amnesty International even called out my project in one of their reports because one of the subcontractors didn't pay his laborers. This impacted me because I saw 3,000 plus laborers building the project I designed, working in heat up to 54 degrees C, 129 degrees Fahrenheit, with no breaks or rests. Their accommodations include living six to a tiny room with deplorable cooking conditions and sewage in the streets. Their passports were confiscated by their sponsors so they couldn't leave. I also realized there was a class system in Qatari culture. Although my wife is a vascular transplant nurse, she faced verbal abuse weekly, being called a dog, among other things, looked down upon just for being Filipina. One night I remember our driver brought her home and with a young Qatari passenger who just humiliated her the entire ride. She came through the door broken, crying. Man, I felt helpless. Over my 27 months, though, stress really piled up, negotiating every design approval with Inshallah, which meant they'll get to it when they feel like it. Then there were threats to revoke my exit visa, and I was being followed by CID, and my movements tracked by our drivers because I discovered the office manager and our government liaison, called a PRO, had set up an embezzlement scheme. Around the time I'd been in the country for 2 years, the office manager was finally sacked for bullying the client and QP. This is when I became office manager and uncovered more corruption by the former office manager and PRO. It took some fast work to get our commercial registration valid again so I wouldn't get arrested and deported. Then there was the Arab Spring uprisings in the region and protests at the U.S. Embassy after Ambassador Stevens was killed. I was now a broken man. I self-medicated the only way I knew how. When I arrived in Doha, I was drinking about a bottle of wine maybe every 2 or 3 nights. By the time I left, I was putting away 1.5 liters of Jack Daniels plus some wine, basically drinking around the clock. I went in a naive American. I came out a changed man, but a raging alcoholic. That experience broke me in ways I'd never expected, and it built me in ways I'm still discovering. Now, in my first year of sobriety, those memories hit different. The fear's still there when I think about it, but what stands out most to me is deep gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons, gratitude for the perspective, and gratitude for being exposed to so many different cultures over there. And gratitude that I get to live in the United States, a country where, with all of its flaws, we still have freedoms and opportunities so many people around the world can only dream about. America is also a place where you can be an addict and turn your life around without being shunned from society or put into an asylum. That's one thing I'm most thankful for as we celebrate our 250th birthday. That's an awesome freedom that Americans can celebrate. Recovery isn't linear. Looking back, I'm proud of how far I've come. You've ever lived abroad or had your eyes opened by travel? Drop your story in the comments. What are you grateful for about this country on our 250th birthday? Thanks for watching. If this hit you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. No filter.